Welcome to chat room. Where's my chat room at today? Chatters, come on. I'm not going to say a damn word until somebody shows up. Come on, chatters. What, because I'm early today? Is that it? Most of y'all expect a pretty consistent 7-minute after start. Well, today we're right on time. Okay, we're 2 minutes late, but for us, that's on time. Who is the us? The us is me. I'm Pugs Moran, and I do this every Monday through Friday, noon till whenever, typically 2 o'clock, sometimes a little bit longer, other times a little bit shorter. But what we do here is we go through all the day's events, current events, hot topics, headlines, whatever it is that people are buzzing about, I talk about it here. I do it in a non-divisive way. We don't talk about politics here. I don't give a shit about your political beliefs or whatever. We just talk about stuff. The stuff in the world that is also happening that maybe people aren't talking about. Or maybe people, and you know what I think, and this is just me, I think that maybe if more people were talking about the stupid kind of stuff that's happening that we're talking about, the world would be a much better place, and you'd elect me king, and I wouldn't need to do this. Although I would still do this. As a labor of love. Okay, show airs every Monday through Friday. I mentioned that. We are, we should do this right from the top. We should talk about our fine sponsor for this month. You know, the show does run on your tips. We accept tips, Venmo, Cash App. You'll see it scrolling there at the bottom, at some point during the show. Speaking of that, I got to put this one up. Yeah, there you go. So thank you to Sacred Oils. Sacred Oils is located at 13740 Midway Road in Dallas, Texas. That's 13740 Midway Road in Dallas, Texas. CBDs and all that stuff. So here's why it's important for you to remember that location, and here's why it's important for you to, just remember the name Sacred Oils. Look, the CBD thing is happening right now. You know it. I know it. We're hearing about it everywhere. People, you probably don't even need. You're like, I don't even know what that is. Are people saying I need it? And then you run into somebody and they're like, yeah, I use it. Yeah, I like. Here's the thing about the CBD stuff. At least it's been my experience, and maybe this isn't yours, but it's been mine. I'm hard-pressed to find somebody who I've learned uses CBD that says, that shit doesn't work, you know what I mean? Because anybody who's been high knows that there's something there. there's something going on that ain't going on with aspirin, So anyway, you're hearing all about the CBD. Everybody's spending all kinds of big money advertising with the radio stations and the TV stations and the billboards and all that kind of stuff. I want you to remember our friends at Sacred Oils. If any of you in the room, if any of you people that tune into this show, if you're thinking about giving it a try, I want you to give it a try with Sacred Oils. Why? Because they're helping us. And if you like this show, see, that's how it works. They're helping us. So thank you to them. All right, here's how the show works. The show works by, first, we go through the events of this very day, May 11th. We call that Erstwhile. On this day in history, we talk about the significant events that may have shaped the way we view this day. And we look for trends, or at least I do. I look for things that go, oh, that happened in 1492 because something similar happened in 1716. Stuff like that. Like, that's kind of weird. I mean, we see that a lot with weather phenomena just because of the time of year, like tornadoes. Really, on this day? This is tornado day, that kind of thing. So we go through the events, then we talk about the people who were born on this day, celebrate some of their contributions. Then we move on to the people who have passed away on this day. And we play a little game I like to say, do we care? Yeah, that's right, it's sweeping the nation. Do we care? We talk about people who died because, look, it is my contention, Your Honor, that everybody dies. And if we acknowledge that in the actual everyday life, there are a lot of assholes out there, stands to reason, assholes die every day. So we play a little game. This person died. We talk about who they were. And, is it like, go to hell, you son of a, or is it bring them into heaven? We answer the question, they're dead, do we care? And then after we do that, after we complete the segment of the show I like to call Erstwhile on this day, that includes the events, the birthdays, and the passings. After we do that, after we've got a nice full-figured view of what this day has represented. Then and only then do I feel comfortable moving haphazardly into the chaos that is today. That's when we get into the trending topics, the current events, all of those things. All right, so if you're with me, I'm ready to begin. Are you ready to begin? Wait, do I have anything I need to tell you? I'm trying to think if there's anything I need to. There is something I need to tell you. There is something very important I need to tell you. We here, excuse me, we here at the High Noon Report with Pugs Moran regretfully inform you that we're not doing a show tomorrow. I'm sorry. I know. No show tomorrow. No show tomorrow. We got, oh God, trust me when I tell you I would so much rather do the show tomorrow. Tomorrow's a work day. Tomorrow's like a Labor Day. We got, old Fancy Pants E. E, who co-hosts the Pugs, Parker, and E with Key show. It's a constantly changing title for that evening show. E, who co-hosts that with us, he's got a boat, and apparently they had to move slips. He moved up. He had this like really cool boat slip, dining area, refrigerator, kitchen, all the stove, whatever you cook stuff. It was awesome. It was great. Me, I'm just like, I'm basically like white trash from the Midwest. I saw that and I was like, whoa. No, apparently he stepped up. Apparently he's got a better slip this year. Apparently this one has an elevator. No, I'm not kidding. There's not an elevator. Well, there's an elevator for a boat. All this. Did you know this? Did you know that these boats, they sit on elevators that rise them up and not? I didn't know that. I thought they just sat in the water. No. Anyway, tomorrow we got to finish up. I've been up there a couple of times this week already, like Louisville. Tomorrow's the big work day. Tomorrow's the day where we got to move refrigerators and kitchen appliances and all that stuff. So no show. I apologize. However, as has been the case, I get the itch to do these, man. I get the itch. So just because I don't do a show tomorrow, but I may do something Friday night. I may do something Saturday, and as always with these streams, something big, big breaking news story that starts to unfold before my eyes. I always try to jump on, and so we do special broadcasts as well. So I apologize, but there will be no show tomorrow. All right, let's start today. High noon it is for the 11th day of May, year of our Lord, 2023, my favorite day of the year. May 11th is the 131st day of the year, and there are 234 days remaining until the end of the year. Yeah, more on why it's my favorite day of the year later, I'll tell you. But first, let's go into erstwhile on this day. On this day in 1713, the Great Northern War. After losing the Battle of Helsinki to the Russians, is this all new to you? The Great Northern War? I've never heard. This is probably a hugely significant event in human history. But I went to a Western public school, so I did not learn anything at all. I have never heard those three words put together before, at least not in the order attributed to an actual event, the Great Northern War. So basically what happened was there was a battle in Helsinki. I believe that's Finland. There was a battle in Helsinki. Let's see, after losing the Battle of Helsinki to the Russians, the Swedish and Finns burned the entire city so that it would not remain intact. And they had, I mentioned this because this is like, scorched earth, the military retreat policy of scorched earth, which I fucking love, man. I don't know who invented scorched earth. Maybe like the Romans. I don't know. The Romans ever retreat? I don't know. But I don't know who invented scorched earth. Maybe the people, maybe the pagans who the Romans were going after. Maybe they did it. But scorched earth is when you know you're losing and you have to retreat, you just destroy everything that you own. All that you're defending, you just burn to the ground so that whoever the conqueror is that's coming in, They can't use anything. There's no reason for them to stay. Scorched earth is essentially attributed to the phrase of ruining the ground so that crops can no longer grow there, at least for, a season or two. So that's what they did. And they burned the entire city of Helsinki on this day. That's a baller move. On this day in 1858, the Minnesota Territory gains enough population to become the 32nd state of the United States. Welcome to the party, Minnesota. Let me tell you something about Minnesota. We do this every day that a state pops up and it's their anniversary of welcome to the party state. We like to talk a little bit about that state. And so today I'm going to focus on Minnesota. Now, down here in Texas where we do these shows, I don't know what level of familiarity y'all have with the Minnesota folk. I know Jeff Ballard in the chat room, he's down there in Iowa. I'm sure he's had, I got to marry the chat room. I'm sorry. I'm sure old Jeff Ballard has had plenty of experiences with what we like to call Minnesota nice. These people are incredible. If you've ever been to Minnesota, now, in fairness, Minnesota for me, and I think for a lot of people, especially those in the Midwest, especially those who live in big cities in the Midwest, Minnesota has an unfair advantage because if you're going to Minnesota, and let's say you're from the suburbs of Chicago, if you're going to Minnesota, you're going fun. It's like Wisconsin and Michigan in that regard. The only experiences I've ever had in Minnesota have centered around snowmobiling, ice fishing, and just lakes in the summertime. Oh my God, what a gorgeous state. I love Minnesota. Now I've said this before, I've got kind of this mad crush on the Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin section of this country. Just got mad crush. Just love it. Love it up there. Most of the people are rural, but still normal. There's like you can have a conversation, but they ain't scary, weird. They're like, and they're just nice. It's just a nice part of the country. So happy birthday, Minnesota. Welcome to the... and also, Minneapolis, St. Paul is beautiful. It really is. It really is a nice city. You can have a really good time there. Go to the what is it? Something Street, something Avenue, whatever that place is. The legendary, iconic music club there. The one that was featured in Purple Rain. Remember the Prince was going up against Morris Day and Time, and they were rivaling to be the top band. What 12th Avenue? I don't know. Whatever it is. I was there. It's nice. It's cool. Minneapolis is fun. But again, I've never been there because I suppose if you're flying to Minneapolis to fire 50 people, maybe that's, maybe you don't have great memories of Minneapolis. But every time I've been to Minnesota, it's been to have a good time. So welcome to the party, Minnesota, on this day in 1858. Roundabout here in these parts. 1970, the Lubbock tornado occurred. Killed people. This is where I kind of go, what? Been to Lubbock, right? A lot of us have, especially, a good number of us here in Texas. Been to Lubbock. I've been to Lubbock twice. This tornado in 1970 did $250 million of damage to Lubbock. Can I ask you, what was $250 million? What did in 1970? I was in Lubbock for the first time around 1994 and then again around 2005. I didn't think in either of those times, I didn't think there was anything in that town worth $250 million, let alone going back to 1970. Crazy. On this day in 1996, after the aircraft's departure from Miami, a fire started by improperly handled chemical oxygen generators in the cargo hold of Atlanta-bound ValueJet Airlines Flight 592. It caused it to crash into the Florida Everglades. Now, remember early on in this show, I used to document all the plane crashes that occurred, and then that just got too dark, and I couldn't do it every day because I realized that, I'm going to have to fly again at some point. And I don't need all this garbage in my head. I don't need to know how frequently planes used to crash. And if you remember my rule, I had a rule. I said that I believe that air travel, in commercial air travel, or just, whatever, air travel in this country, between the years of, say, 1945, let's even start after the war. Let's say 1945 to the year 2000 was a gamble at best. I believe up until 2000, I do. I believe that. I believe it took that long for aviation to figure out all the things that could possibly go wrong. And if you've noticed, don't have many plane crashes. We don't. When was the last time that a commercial airliner went down? Again, okay, there are certain outliers that will skew this conversation. Like, I'm not talking about some West African airline that's been in business for 6 months, okay? I'm not talking about some East planes filled with goats and chicken and, people. I'm talking about, like, had to catch a flight from Paris to Amsterdam, like just like a regional Western normal airline. Those don't crash. Southeast Asia seems to still be having some issues, but really, they don't crash anymore. Anyway, the reason I mentioned this one, and I've stopped mentioning the plane crashes just because there were so many of them, and it was such a dark topic. The reason I mentioned this one is because this is like it. This is like the end one. This one, and I remember this one vividly when it happened. This is the plane that crashed in the Everglades, and it was the early days of the internet, so it was the first time people started talking shit on the internet, and you started hearing things like, my cousin said he saw an alligator eat a baby! Like stuff like that. So I remember this one vividly. There were a lot of stories concerning what went down in the Everglades when this plane... Gators and more gators and other things they got down there. You just ate them people. Well, those people died before the gators got them. Nope, they was alive. They survived. My cousin Bebo told me that he saw it. That was the early days of the internet. You started having those kinds of reports. But also now, through the lens of history and my theory of 1945 to 2000 being the practice stages of commercial air travel in this country, this is sort of like the last big one. This is like the last big American plane that didn't go down because of a hijacking, that didn't go down because of, whatever it was. It's hijinks, if you will, terrorism. Yeah. I mean, this one was because they learned a lesson. See, this one they learned a lesson. You can't store the pressurized oxygen tanks underneath there next to that thing. They learned that. They learned that in 1997 when this plane went down. Let's see. Also, 1997, Deep Blue, a chess-playing supercomputer, defeats Garry Kasparov in the last. Boy, that was Chicago, huh? That was the last game. Deep Blue, a chess-playing supercomputer, defeats Garry Kasparov in the last game of the rematch, becoming the first supercomputer to beat a world champion chess player in a classic format. How exciting! No, not exciting. Ground zero for AI taking over our lives right here. The minute a computer could be... Actually, I'm surprised the computer didn't do it in the 70s, right? I mean, it seems like the whole point of a computer is that it's like a super brain. Like, it can do things the human brain can't do, and if the human brain could do these things, we wouldn't need computers. So, that seems kind of unfair. It's like in the early days of automobiles. They used to demonstrate the power of the automobile. Like, look at how fast this car is. And they would film horses. They would take a Kentucky Derby winning horse and it would race the new Ford. And of course, the new Ford would kill the horse because it's an automobile. But people were like, oh, okay. Well, these things work. I mean, that's kind of how the chess computer beating the human dude kind of, I felt, I was like, hey, well, it's a computer. It's supposed to win. I would be surprised if it didn't. The big story would be that the computer lost, right? All right, let's go through some birthdays. Let's see who was born on these here days. Born on this day in 1904, Salvador Dali. That's a weird guy, right? Salvador, you know what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I have too many thoughts in my head at once, and that's really not the problem here because I don't have a take on Salvador Dali, other than he had impressive mustache abilities. He didn't do the thing, wouldn't he, like Raleigh Fingers? Remember the A's pitcher? I think Salvador Dali had that going on. Born on this day in 1911, Phil Silvers. Phil Silvers, a superstar, and nobody knows who Phil Silvers is today. Phil Silvers was like one of the original TV superstars. Phil Silvers played a guy called Sergeant Bilko. I don't know, maybe you heard your grandparents mention it. I've never seen it, but apparently he was a big deal. Phil Silvers was born on this day in 1911. Born on this day in 1927, another superstar of early TV, at least in my house, and probably not my house, but at least in my brain, ladies and gentlemen, Bernard Fox was born on this day. Bernard Fox. Oh, who's Bernard Fox? You're probably wondering. Oh, Pugs, do regale us with the information that you hide. Bernard Fox was Dr. Bombay from Bewitched. Come on, Dr. Bombay. He was first of all, the great question has always been, and I always use this as an example of how we're programmed to think against what we really want. I always say, when people are presented the question, who you got, Ginger or Marianne? I always say, why? It's a fantasy. Why wouldn't you go with the Hollywood sex bomb? Anyway. That same kind of thing goes with Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. That's right. Who would you rather have? Samantha from Bewitched or Jeannie from I Dream of Jeannie? Now, I'm a Samantha guy. And here's why. Here's why I'm a Samantha guy. First of all, I think Elizabeth Montgomery is prettier and sexier and plays a more like Jeannie would be embarrassing. Jeannie is hot, but Jeannie seemed kind of stupid. You know what I mean? Like Jeannie seemed like, oh, master, I'm sorry. Jeannie was always making slapstick mistake. Jeannie'd be a problem. She's hot, but so is Samantha. So it's like, okay, so the hot thing is that's a push. Even though, if I'm being honest, I think I am more attracted to Samantha. But that might be some advantage she gets because I like everything else about Samantha better than Jeannie. Jeannie's a fool. Samantha's kind of cool and in control, and she shows her vulnerabilities. But Samantha's always in charge. And so I was Bewitched. Darren crossover. Probably didn't even notice. I was 5 years old. Anyway, when Bewitched episodes came on, it was always a great episode if Dr. Bombay showed up. Bernard Fox celebrating a birthday today. Dr. Bombay, always a welcome addition to a Bewitched episode. Also, Dr. Bombay and Paul Lynn. Who was Paul Lynn on Bewitched? I forgot who he was, but he was funny too. Whenever Dr. Bombay and you know what? They always kind of came together. There was always because you never got. I also liked when Endora, who was of course Sam's mom, Endora would show up. And Endora almost always brought along Dr. Bombay because in whatever other dimension that, Endora and Dr. Bombay and all these genies exist in, they hang out. So every time, so that was always good. Bernard Fox celebrating a birthday today. Born on this day in 1927. Dead. I mean, he's long dead, but, born on this day in 1927. Born on this day in 1933. Louis Farrakhan. What? Yeah, I guess. Louis Farrakhan. So I've seen the guy a bunch of times. I've been in the same proximity as him a bunch of times because he is South Side of Chicago guy. That's where Nation of Islam is headquartered. That's where all these guys, hang out. My Louis Farrakhan story that I like to tell is that it was, I was rushing downtown for some reason and there was traffic on the major expressway. So I decided to go down 79th Street, which runs right through the heart of Nation of Islam, where the Nation of Islam is headquartered. You run right past the whatever. Anyway, I was trying to back road my way downtown because there was really bad traffic. And I looked behind me and there was a black SUV behind me. And then I looked in front of me and I'm like, there's another black SUV in front of me. And I'm in a real sketchy neighborhood of the South Side of Chicago. I'm just trying to bob and weave my way through, to try and get downtown. But I saw, it's the windows are locked or the windows are rolled up, the doors are locked, all that stuff. But I just noticed that there's two of the same cars. And I thought they were government cars. And then I look next to me and there's a town car. And there's all these Nation of Islam dudes in the town car. And they've got the bow ties and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just sitting at the stoplight. I'm like, whatever. So the stoplight changes and we all just keep moving. We're going in the same direction. Now Now the SUV behind me is flashing the lights, right? And the SUV in front of me is now signaling that he's going to move over in front. Here's a long story short. I had accidentally found my way in the middle of Louis Farrakhan's motorcade. That's right. That's right. The leader of the Nation of Islam trucks around in a motorcade. Why? Well, because he's a global figure who a lot of people would like to see dead. Anyway, it was very scary because I'm looking around. I didn't even notice. You know how when you're just, okay, if I take a right here and then I can go up to Damon, and if I just shoot down Damon, then I can just kind of like maybe reach Cermak and take that right into downtown on the south side. Right? You're thinking that and you don't realize what you're doing. And then you look around and you're like, oh my God. My car is right now where Louis Farrakhan's car is supposed to be in this motorcade, and they're angry at me. So what ended up happening was they all moved. They all moved for me. That's right. Look at me. Oh, and it probably bugged them because I was a white man. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not moving. But I didn't know what was going on. I would have moved. My point is, I would have moved. It wouldn't have been a problem. I'd have moved. But it's probably like, this white man, he's so yeah. So I just and then they went right past me. They got in the other lane, went right past me, and then immediately got back in front of me so that I found myself, now I was out of the motorcade. How I got into it, how I found myself trapped in the middle of Louis Farrakhan's motorcade, I no idea, but it happened. So stay frosty out there. Happy birthday, Louis Farrakhan. I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what my feelings are about the guy. Let's see here. 1941. 1941. Born on this day. Eric Burden. Eric Burden. I'm going to throw something out here to you. You may not like what you're about to hear. Eric Burden is the best voice of the British invasion. That's right. That's right. If you take the entirety of the British invasion and you were to single out all of the voices, I'm telling you, you're going to go, wow, okay, so they were all just kind of singer-singers. Like Mick Jagger's not a great singer. He's a great front man, and he's the perfect choice for the Rolling Stones, and that's why he's the greatest rock star to ever live. But he's not a great singer. Chris Cornell was a great singer. So was the birthday boy today, Eric Burden, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Burden. Certainly the most unique voice of the British invasion. Somewhere Eric Burden's voice was somewhere between Eddie Vedder and the Crash Test Dummies. He was somewhere in between there. And he had such beautiful, almost operatic tone to his singing. There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun. Eric Burden and the Animals, man. Eric Burden could sing. Happy birthday, Eric Burden. Born on this day, 1941. Born on this day in 1963. A fabulous babe who left us too soon because, I don't know. I don't know. Did she not know how to ski? Did she have some kind of they say that she may have had an epileptic seizure while she was skiing. Natasha Richardson from the famous Richardson Redgrave family, I believe. I believe that's who they are. Miranda Richardson is involved in this whole thing. I think Miranda Richardson was Natasha Richardson's sister, maybe, or first cousin. And then you've got to mix in the Vanessa Redgraves and the Lynn Redgrave. They're involved in this somewhere as moms and aunts. I'm not sure. But it was on this day in 1963 that the beautiful, the talented, she played Patty Hearst. She was only in a couple movies because she died so young, but she was really good. She was married to Liam Neeson. Liam at the time of her death, sadly, from a skiing accident. She was married to Liam Neeson. But on this board, Natasha Richardson. On this day, Natasha Richardson was born. Happy birthday, Natasha Richardson. I'm sure you're an angel up there in heaven. You seem like such a nice lady. On this day, born in 1964, Tim Blake Nelson, American actor. Been in a lot of things. Oh, brother, where art thou? He's been in a whole bunch of things. He's funny. He's one of them that guy actors. He is unmistakable. You see Tim Blake Nelson. You don't know his name, but if I show you his picture, you're like, oh, that guy. So go over to Google and just put Tim Blake Nelson. And you'll be like, oh, that guy. We all know that guy. Happy birthday to that guy. We like that guy. Born on this day in 1964, Texas Ranger great Bobby Witt, who we now must begin calling Bobby Witt Sr., because Bobby Witt Jr. is a ball player, man. Let me tell you. Bobby Witt, the birthday boy, he, of course, great, legendary baseball player, long time Texas Ranger, local guy, lived somewhere up here like, Allen or McKinney or something like that. He's got a son, Bobby Witt Jr., who now plays for the Kansas City Royals, and oh, my God. Bobby Witt Jr. is a superstar, man. I'm just going off of, I've seen him play. I saw him play last year, because my team plays the Kansas City Royals a lot. But we also happen to be playing them this week. And, man, Bobby Witt Jr. is a ball player. This is going to be his breakout season. He is so defensively great. I saw him make 2 consecutive plays. Was he playing short? I think he's playing short. 2 consecutive plays, diving plays that would have been hits on anybody else. Diving plays, and in one motion, boom, up to his knees, fires to first, one hops it to first base, gets the runner by a step. Unbelievable defense I've seen out of this kid. And then his bat. So anyway, happy birthday. You got to be proud, Dad. Bobby Witt Sr. watching his kid have a breakout year, or what looks like could be a breakout year. Born on this day in 1982. Here's another sad one. Corey Monteith. Corey Monteith. I didn't watch Glee, but he was the Glee kid, right? He was like the star of Glee, the boy next door. All the girls had their pictures of Corey Monteith up in their room. And then he killed himself. Another one of these depression dudes who was like, yeah, I could very easily become Brad Pitt in the next year, but instead I'm going to kill myself. That's too bad. That's too bad. Well, why would he kill himself? He had everything going for him. Well, he had some issues. He had some drug dependency issues, which were an offshoot of his battles with depression, as is often the case. People with depression who do not learn the proper tools to handle their depression often turn to things that make them artificially feel good. So there you get. It's not to take rocket scientists to figure out why people who are depressed end up taking drugs, because drugs make you feel good. See, and when you don't have the juice in your brain that everybody else does that makes them feel normal and makes them feel leveled out, when you don't have those juices, because maybe you also have mania, and what happens with mania is all the juices go out at once, and then when you need them, you ain't got them, and then you sink into depression. It's all very complicated. We know very little about the brain, but we're learning. Anyway, so, he was a junkie. He was a junkie, did a lot of drugs, and but make no mistake, it was suicide. He knew what he was doing. He's Corey Monteith, very sad. Born on this day in 1982, died in 2013. Born on this day. Here we go. Let's play good quarterback, shit quarterback. Okay, you tell me which is which. Born on this day in 1983, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Leinart. Yeah, Matt Leinart would be the shit quarterback. Matt Leinart was, Matt Leinart. Did they try to make him a thing? They tried to make Matt Leinart a thing. Matt Leinart was the quarterback at USC when USC was Alabama, or Georgia, I guess. Let's be honest, let's give respect. So the team Georgia today, they're dominating, the last couple of seasons of college football. So that's what USC was when Matt Leinart was their quarterback. They were terrific. Not when they played Texas, though, baby. Woohoo! Vince Young! Best college football game I ever saw. Matt Leinart was there in Hollywood, and he was so handsome, and he was the best quarterback on the best team, and he was handsome, and he was in Hollywood, and, he's doing the Tonight Show as a junior, shit like that. Man, they tried to make him a thing. And then he got to the next level, and he sucked. Matt Leinart sucks. Still handsome, though, but does he have a personality? Well, they're trying to figure that out now. They've been cramming him down our throats Was he Fox, ESPN, whatever? He does college football analysis. I don't know. I honestly haven't seen enough of him to really have a hot take. But I do know that as a quarterback, he was a bust. And happy birthday to you, Matt Leinart, born on this day in 1983. All right, so he would be, I think, the shit quarterback in this equation. Now let's do the good quarterback in this equation. Born on this day in 1989, happy birthday, Cam Newton! Cam Newton! Woo, baby! A case can be made for Cam Newton being the greatest college football quarterback Nine Eyes had ever done seen. Case can be made for him being that by a lot of people. Cam Newton was a player, man. Injuries. Cam Newton was the... a lot of people like to say that, like, you know... well, you know, the new style quarterback began with Michael Vick. And I'm like... First of all, it didn't begin with Michael Vick. I mean, look, do people not know who Randall Cunningham was? You know, Randall Cunningham was a Michael Vick type. And that the dude played in the 70s and 80s. So, you know, that kind of thing was out there. They just didn't embrace it. Michael Vick was an outlier because they didn't embrace the Randall Cunningham. You were a quarterback like that up until Michael Vick. You ended up being moved into the slot. You ended up being turned into a tight end. You became a wide out, something like that. Maybe a running back. I don't know, but they didn't want that in their quarterbacks. So Michael Vick had success, not ultimate success. Michael Vick never won a Super Bowl. You know, Atlanta never won nothing. They were exciting. But then Cam Newton came in, and Cam Newton was sort of the next generation of Michael Vick, who was now this, certainly not a traditional NFL pocket passer, but he could pass for the pocket. But the thing is, Cam Newton could also do pretty much everything in both categories. Cam Newton had an arm. Cam Newton had the running ability. Cam Newton had this ability to read and photographic memory of certain defenses that he was able to complete passes where other guys might throw picks. Now, Cam Newton was brittle. That was the big thing about Cam. Cam Newton doesn't play in the end. Cam Newton could probably still be. If Cam Newton had the body luck of a Tom Brady, I mean, I'd love to see what Cam Newton would have been. That's one of the great injuries. Whether you're talking about, you know, Gale Sayers, Bo Jackson, Derrick Rose, you know, who else? Well, Cam Newton, you know, he's another one of these guys. Man, if he had only stayed healthy. Happy birthday, Cam Newton. Born on this date in 1989. No. All right. Adam wants to argue with me about Vince Young. Look, it's fine. You ain't going to get an argument from me. I love Vince Young in Texas. I'm just telling you what they tried to make us believe about Matt Leinart. And I don't know, maybe you're responding to Cam Newton versus Vince Young. No. In the pros? You would rather... In the pros. I mean, look. First of all, Cam Newton was great, okay, in college. So let's not even go there, Cam Newton in college versus Vince Young in college. They were both great. But pros can't even compare the successes. Vince, I don't know what Vince Young... Vince Young is just a little bit better than Jamarcus Russell when I think about his pro career. I'm like, that dude didn't do anything. That was heartbreaking. I wanted Vince Young to be a star. Ugh. But Cam Newton was a star. Cam Newton was on his way to being a star. Cam Newton was an MVP. Cam Newton was made of paper mache. Now he's like 35 and walks with I don't know how old he is, whatever he is. 89, so he's 20, 30, 33, he's 34. Okay, so I was right there. 34, hasn't played football in like 6 years. Nah, a couple of he's like, my arm's been broken a million times. It's too bad. What could have been? What could have been with Cam Newton? Okay, final birthday of the day. Today is your birthday. On this day in 2009, the world welcomed Mason Moran. That's right, it's my boy's 14th birthday today. Oh, is this a big day? My favorite day of the year. 14. What can I tell you about 14? I jokingly pretend that, like I tell him all the time, like I'll chase him around the house with pictures of him as a baby, and I'll say, what the hell did you do to this kid? What did you do to him? Where is he? He's in there somewhere. It's a little joke we play. And I always always tell him, like, well, I don't now as I did 10 years ago, right? Like I say those kinds of things because he's growing up and he's becoming a person. And I can say those things to him because he is growing up and becoming a person. And along with that comes a sense of humor. And he understands we have that kind of connection. But truth be told, you know, you were, I'm not going to say that because that's not true. You miss what they were in more innocent moments. But truth be told, man, my kid is kind of turning into an awesome human being, you know? And it's like when you see that, because you don't want your kid to be an asshole. Like that's like the worst thing. Please, kid, don't be an asshole. Be loving, be kind, be friendly, be the life of the party, be a leader, all of those things. And at 14, even though I tease him about wanting him to be, you know, 6 again or whatever, even though when he was 6, he was awful. Oh my God, was he a temper tantrum baby? Oh my God. Anyway. Well, he's still that though. He's still a temper tantrum baby. It's just now he does it with might and force and a wit. Oh, he's so quick. He's so quick-witted. Oh, he humiliates me. And I guess my point is, although he's growing older and he's 14 years old today, got girlfriends and all that, you know, even though he's growing older, I think I like him more each year. I don't know. How about me, Dad of the Year, admitting that maybe he likes his kid more every year, even though he publicly pretends he wishes he was 5. All right, let's go into a new segment on the show, one that I love. This is my favorite. This is how you jazz up the deaths, right? We call this segment, oh, excuse me. Hold on. There we go. I'm sorry, I couldn't find. I got to rename the segment. We call the segment "Who Died on This Day and Do We Care?" All right, these are the people who died. These are the people who died. Dead on this day in 1981, Bob Marley. Is there anybody on the planet that has a problem when a Bob Marley song comes on? Is there anybody on the planet? I want to know this person. I want to know this person who is, because I know people who know absolutely nothing about Bob Marley, and a Bob Marley song will come on and they'll be like, I like this song. This is Bob Marley died on this day in 1981. Do we care? Hell yeah, we care. But, Bob Marley was cool, man. Well, I mean, cool. You say Bob Marley was cool. I don't want to live with him. You know, I think he had some religious things that he was into that I think would cause any room that he's in to smell, let's say, interesting. So I don't want to live with him, but from afar, you know, it's like, oh man, that dude just lived the way he wanted to live. He was happy. He got rich. He made no compromises to anybody. He was good. What he did for the people from where he came from. He never left. He didn't have a house in the Hollywood Hills. He could have. Penthouse in Manhattan. That's for his kids. All his kids got that stuff. Bob Marley lived in Kingston. Bob Marley lived in a cool house for Kingston, but he never left. And in the communities around him, he spent all of his money on Bob Marley. Yes, Bob Marley, we care. Dead on this day in 1981. Cancer, or was he killed? Was he killed because the government feared that he was riling the people up into either 1, some form of socialism, or 2, his own army, and that he was going to take over the island? And then he dies of cancer. He dies of cancer. There were a couple of assassination attempts against his life. The Bob Marley story is crazy, man. If you think that he's just a... You just think he's that guy? No woman, no cry. You just think he's that guy? Buffalo Soldier. Way more stuff. Good stuff. Like it was all it was all stuff that just objectively you look at and you go, well, yeah, that's probably a good thing what he's trying to do. Bob Marley, yeah, we care. Dead on this day in 2006. Floyd Patterson. Floyd Patterson, ladies and gentlemen. American boxer. He was an actor. I got to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about Floyd Patterson. I know the name. I think he fought Muhammad Ali early. I think he didn't fight Muhammad Ali. I think he fought Cassius Clay. Let's see here. Floyd Patterson was an American. I did it again. My Chicago came out. Floyd Patterson was an American professional boxer who competed from 1952 to 1972 and twice reigned as the world heavyweight champion between 56 and 62. At the age of 21, he became the youngest boxer in history to win the title and was also the first heavyweight to regain the title after losing it. As an amateur, he won a gold medal in the middleweight division at the 1952. He's in. We care. He's a two-time heavyweight champion and Olympic gold medalist. Yeah, okay. Floyd Patterson, much respect. I'm sorry. Didn't know what I was going to find out. Floyd Patterson, we care. He died on this day in, what year? 2006. Dead on this day in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, the passing of Peggy Lipton. Peggy Lipton, the original Mod Squad. Peggy Lipton, to many people probably don't know. Twin Peaks. She wasn't Shelley. She was the hot blonde who ran the diner. Remember, she made the best cherry pie and cup of coffee. Hot blonde. She started out on the Mod Squad. That's where she became famous, like in the 60s. She was the hot blonde in the Mod Squad. Then she was the hot blonde in Twin Peaks. She was a hot blonde. Peggy Lipton was beautiful. And although you may not know her, Peggy Lipton, most people of this generation certainly know her daughter, who looks exactly like her. Her daughter is Rashida Jones. Rashida Jones! You know, Rashida Jones, from Karen from The Office, and everything else, Parks and Rec. Rashida Jones, she's everywhere. She's lovely. Everybody loves Rashida Jones. Well, Rashida Jones, her dad is Quincy Jones, the music producer, and her mom is Peggy Lipton. And her dad, Quincy Jones, is a black man who is very dark, and her mom, Peggy Lipton, is a 6-foot, blonde, blue-eyed, like Norwegian goddess. And those two bloodlines came together, and they created Rashida Jones, and she is beautiful. She has the skin tone of her father, although she's very, she's kind of light, right? Yeah, because she's light. She would almost have to be with all the blonde and Caucasian coming from her mom. But she's like a really but you look at her face, you look at Rashida Jones' face, and then you look at Peggy. There's side-by-sides online. You can just put Google Rashida Jones and mom, or Rashida Jones, Peggy Lipton, and they'll show them. It's crazy. It is crazy. They look so similar. Rashida Jones's face is Peggy Lipton's face. It's just imagine Rashida Jones's face with blonde hair and blue eyes, and it's crazy. Anyway, on this day in 2019, Peggy Lipton died. Do we care? Yeah, we care. Yeah, we care. She was Rashida Jones's mom. We love Rashida Jones. Of course we care. Look at that. Everybody got in. Everybody got in. Today, we cared about everybody who died on it, which you can't say that for every day that we do this. All right, let me take a little moment here and talk about our fine sponsor. Our fine sponsor, Sacred Oils. They are located, right there in, I don't know if it's Dallas. I think it's Dallas. It says it's Dallas, right? 13740 Midway Road, Suite 522. If you want to test out some CBDs, you're hearing about them and you're thinking, I don't know if that's for me, but people are saying maybe it is. Here's a couple of things that I take, and these are Sacred Oil brands, and I've been taking these for a couple of months now. This one I really like. This is, if you're like me, this is Sacred Oils CBD. They will explain to you everything that it's used for. For me, I use this because my mind races. And from the time I was very little, when I would go to bed at night, I would need to take some kind of Sominex at first, then it was Tylenol PM, then it's whatever it was, some kind of sleep aid. As I got older, then it moved into Ambiens and all these kinds of things, because I simply lay in bed and my mind races. And I can't sleep. Even though my body is physically exhausted, my mind is is just not allowing me to relax. I found that this helps a lot with this, with that. I no longer take any of those other things. I no longer take the Sominex or, I certainly don't take any prescription medications anymore. I take 2 melatonin gummies, which are wonderful, just like Kroger brand. And then 1 dropper of this. This is the Sacred Oils CBD, 3,000 milligrams of CBD oil. And that combination, I take this about an hour before I go to bed because it takes a little bit of time to sink in. And then when, you remember when I busted up my ankle pretty bad and it was all swollen and black and blue, that's where I found this stuff because somebody told me about CBD cream. So that's where I was introduced to this stuff. This CBD soothing cream. Now, I use this the way you want Bengay or something, except this has, I don't know what it has. It felt good. It is CBD soothing cream, healing beliefs, full spectrum, CBD 500 milligrams. So those are the kinds of things that I use them for. You can get all of the Delta 8s there if you're looking for that. That is the stuff that people can't believe that they just walked into a store and bought legally in the state of Texas. It's that conversation that I've had before about how, I believe that we all thought that legalization of marijuana on the federal level was going to come in one grand proclamation. There's going to be a vote, and we're going to win the vote, and then the next day it's going to be legal. Or that there was going to be some executive decision. I, as the executive, on this day, determined that today is... I don't believe that's how it's going to happen, even though that's how we've all sort of been conditioned to expect it to happen. I think it's going to be a slow creep. I think we're just all going to wake up one day and realize, holy shit, this stuff's been legal for years. This stuff, there was just never any real grand proclamation. And that's kind of the era that we're in right now. It's a very interesting time for the CBDs and all that kind of stuff. Edibles, full line of edibles at Sacred Oil. Okay, so if you get the Sacred Oil chocolate bar that I got, it's world's finest chocolate or something like that. Remember, it took me 2 hours for the edible chocolate to kick in. So you take it and then 2 hours later, you'll start to feel it. I got frustrated. And remember, I ate the entire chocolate bar. You're only supposed to eat 2 squares of chocolate. And I ate the entire chocolate bar. And I was messed up for days. So read the instructions. Talk to the experts at Sacred Oil. They know what they're talking about. Trust me. Be patient. And again, if you're thinking individual thing, maybe your favorite radio show has a big advertiser who talks about their fine line of CBD products. Go to Sacred Oils. If you can help the show out, that would help the show out. Pugs 20. Tell them at checkout Pugs 20 and they're going to give you 20% off. That's how we know. So if you do want to do that, it's another way that you can help support the show, and we appreciate it. Okay. Also, tip the show. You can still tip the show. We need the help there as well. So we accept Cash App, PayPal. If you want to drop a little something, we do these shows every day, Monday through Friday from noon till whenever the news runs out. And we also do shows every night, Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. That's myself and James Parker and E. Keynote hangs out with us from time to time. I'm going to try and make him more regular. Yeah, so there you go. That's all that you need to know. Yeah, there's the information on how to tip the show. And also, if you're going to dabble in the CBD, please check out Sacred Oils. Sacred Oils, 469-951-3910. That's 469-951-3910. All right, let's get into all the things that are trending today, because that's ultimately what this show tries to do, is get you all prepped up on today. Title 42 is trending. Now, because I don't engage all that much in divisive issues, I don't know what Title 42 was. I know what it is because I've read enough about it in recent days. So let's be clear about what Title 42 is. It goes away tonight at midnight, something like that. Title 42, or wait, did it go away last night at midnight? I'm not sure, whatever. Title 42, the rule that lapses, no, it's tonight at midnight. Title 42, the rule that lapses overnight Thursday into Friday, was put in place under former President Donald Trump ostensibly to prevent people with COVID-19 from entering the United States. Makes sense to me. So far, I support that. During the pandemic, we should probably have new rules where we suspend anybody coming in because, see, there's a pandemic. We had boats filled with people sitting in the Gulf of Mexico because we wouldn't let them in. So come on. In practice, Title 42 has been little more than a crude tool to swiftly expel undocumented migrants. Oh, there's a little bit of opinion being mixed into this otherwise factual report. But hopes among those waiting at the border that its end would make claiming asylum easier have given way to fears that it could actually become even harder. Another rule called Title 8 means that people caught entering the United States illegally can not only be deported, but also face a 5-year ban on applying for legal entry. Okay, so if you sneak in illegally, right, and a lot of people do, you sneak in illegally and you get caught and you get deported, you give up your opportunity for the next 5 years to try and go through the legal process to get in because you got caught. You did it the wrong way and you got caught. Now, I think I'm a pretty decent, open-minded person. I don't see a problem at all with that. That seems to make sense. Well, they get in. If they get in and they don't get caught, and there's a lot of. Then we get to a whole other thing. But I don't understand what. Well, there should be some. You get caught and you get deported. So your penalty for getting caught for breaking into the country essentially is you get caught and you get kicked out, and then the punishment. I don't know, man. That makes sense to me. That kind of makes sense to me. Many migrants have already sold all their belongings to pay people smugglers who promise to help them cross the border. That's terrible. It's terrible the way these desperate people are exploited. But that emotional reaction that I just had, that doesn't affect the actual, absolutes that we see here, which is that this is a problem. Migrants are supposed to use the Migrants are supposed to use the CBP1 smartphone app created by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol to set up an interview on the appointment. Okay, so the way to set up an interview to get into the country legally is that you have to install the app in your cell phone. Now I start to go, I have a question. I don't think these people have cell phone plans. I'm pretty sure that makes... So I can see how that would be problematic. That would be an issue. Well, you can't let people into the country that can't even get a cell phone plan. Oh, stop looking at the world through Ohio's lens, okay? The rest of the world does not have a Metro PCS store in every strip mall. Stop it. Not everybody, especially people desperate and looking for a better life or just a little bit of money to run. Those people probably don't enjoy the same creature comforts like, hell, not only owning a phone, but just internet connection at all. I can't go to Wisconsin and maintain an internet connection with my phone. So these people in rural, so that seems a little much. Let's see here. Users report with the app. So of course the U.S. Customs app doesn't work. Widespread difficulties, outages. Amnesty International has criticized its mandatory use as discriminatory since it requires access to mobile devices and the internet. Yeah, that seems a little discriminatory. Well, if you're looking to be provocative, you would call it discriminatory. And you would call it discriminatory because you're trying to suggest that they're making it difficult because they don't want these people in. That's if you were doing it that way. Call it discriminatory. But users report widespread difficulties using the app, while Amnesty International has criticized its mandatory use as discriminatory. Now, you could look at it the other way and you could say, well, it's just stupid. It could be just stupid. It doesn't necessarily have to be discriminatory. It could have been that there was a guy who got kicked kickback from an app designer who got a contract with the federal government because of this, because that was an opportunity for someone in the private sector to make a little bit of money off the federal tit. So now you got somebody going, hey, they just paid me $1 million to produce this app. And nobody stopped it, because in a bureaucracy, almost nobody ever stops anything once it gets thrown into the river flow. It's just moving now, and now suddenly we're making an app, and nobody went, hey, these people don't have phones to use this app, because two dudes, one dude in acquisitions at the Pentagon or at the Border Patrol or whatever, went out to a steak dinner with an app designer, and then suddenly that deal was struck. It may not have anything to do with, the political position of let's keep them out, although it may be convenient to those people with those views. It could just be that this was just typical bureaucratic graft, and it's a stupid idea because it just won't work, but it doesn't necessarily have to be another indication that people are just overtly racist. We must keep our mind open to the idea that corruption is still a thing in the federal government, and anything that the federal government does that you look at and go, that's stupid, it's not necessarily because they're trying to subjugate a group of people. It could be because somebody got paid on the side for that one. Because that's corruption, and that is rampant. That's the real problem. Corruption. Bad people exploiting our system for their own gains. And unfortunately, we have lost the ability to detect that at first sight. Not all of us, many of us. Lost to see somebody, that dude's corrupt, that dude's all about himself, or that girl, whatever the case may be. But that's what this is. I don't know. So anyway, this thing expires tonight. What are we thinking? What are they trying? What are they saying on Fox News? Is this going to be like a World War Z thing? Is it going to be a bunch of zombies coming over that, beautiful new wall that Trump built? I don't know. But that's Title 42, and that's what everybody's talking about. Caitlin Collins is also trending. Caitlin Collins, oh my goodness. Caitlin Collins having quite the 24 to 48 hours. She was, of course, the host of CNN's big Trump town hall that aired last night. Caitlin Collins was also announced as the replacement for the 9 p.m. show. That's right, Caitlin Collins is getting her own show at 9 o'clock. They announced that just before the Trump town hall. And I'm wondering if, well, maybe had they sat on that announcement after her performance at the Trump town hall, would they have still given her, because man, is Caitlin getting hammered. And let me tell you something, rightfully so. First, always begin with the good. Y'all, did you see that little white pantsuit she had on? Uh-huh. Oh, my God. Caitlin Collins looked amazing last night. She's a beautiful woman. But that outfit she had on, very, very nice, very tasteful. You know what she looked like? You know what she was dressed like? She walked out and I thought, what is she, the bride? And we're at her rehearsal dinner? That's like what a bride wears to her rehearsal dinner. She looked amazing. And it was her coming out party. This was a big deal for her because, until very recently, Caitlin Collins, she'd kind of just been the hot, interesting, young, up-and-coming reporter. She got a lot of heat on her. She had been there for a while, but then she got some heat on her when she was placed in the White House briefing room during the Trump administration. So this is a big deal for her, man. She's going to be on. This is a coup for CNN. Boy, the fake news. I hate CNN. All the ratings, all the Trump ratings were going over to Fox. But now he's in a fight with Fox, so he needs to reach people who still have cable, because people who still have cable TV are basically who vote for him and who support him. So he needs to go on one of the cable news. He understands this. So he's trying to buddy up with CNN after all this stuff. And CNN wants to buddy up with him. CNN desperately is trying to figure out who they are. So they do this thing and they put Caitlin Collins on there. Now, what's interesting is that people were saying, why would he do it with Caitlin Collins? Why would he allow Caitlin Collins? She was the White House CNN correspondent that, used to always ask tough questions, and he always called her a terrible person. And all. Why? Well, because Caitlin Collins is also a former executive producer for Tucker Carlson. That's where she came from. Caitlin Collins comes from, if Caitlin Collins hadn't signed a contract with CNN, Caitlin Collins would probably be one of these awful OAN girls or whatever. She would have gotten on the air somewhere else. And who knows what she would have become. So it was a very big mainstream moment for old Caitlin Collins last night. And it started out with Caitlin Collins, basically the early tweets in her defense last night were, Caitlin Collins is not letting him get away with his lies. Whoa, that lasted like a whole 10 minutes. And then the great orange beast just ragdolled her on the stage for well over an hour, and it was freaking glorious. But Mr. Trump, but Mr. Trump, but I have a follow-up, but Mr. Trump, hold on, lady. It was like watching a father and his like newly liberated daughter back home for Thanksgiving dinner, back home from college. You know, it's like dad and his daughter are now arguing over politics. That's what it was like. It was a ragdolling by Daddy Trump of poor Caitlin Collins. And all I could think of was, man, CNN, just an hour before this thing started, this train wreck, just an hour before this whole train wreck happened, they just announced to the world that she's their new star. Oh my God. And she tried, but you know, you can't, oh God. Here's an example of how she just got steamrolled. He was talking about how he got Roe versus Wade overturned, that it was him and he was taking credit and, you know, he was doing that whole thing, which is very important to his base. And he said something that all the presidents had been trying to do since Roe versus Wade. And she corrected him and she said, you mean Republicans? And he goes, yeah, Republicans. But as you well know, some Democrats too. He does that. That's one of the devices that he does. Before he lies to you, he says, as you well know, because in the moment he is setting you up as an expert on the same level as him. So now you're an expert. Now you're not going to say anything because he's already let everybody know that you already agree with this and now it's a whole thing. As you know, the other thing that he does, people are saying lets everyone else think that, well, he must know something because he's the president of the United States. It's bullshit. These are all manipulations. These are like manipulations that a cunning 15-year-old might engage in, but it's what he does. So he said, all the presidents have been trying to get rid of it. And she goes, you mean Republicans? And he goes, yeah, Republicans. No, but, you know, some Democrats too. Some Democrat presidents too. People don't know this, but some Democrats too. And then he kept talking. And she said to him, what Democrats? And I'm sitting at home going, yeah, what? You telling me Jimmy Carter tried to get Roe versus Wade? There's Carter, and there's Clinton, and there's Obama, and now there's Biden. Okay, those are the 4 Democratic presidents. Which one of them tried to get Roe versus Wade over to? Because he said a couple of them. That's just that's his personality. He lies. He lies effortlessly about little things. And that's why he is so dubious when the important things come up, because it's all self-aggrandizing bullshit. He just lies about little things all the time for self-aggrandization, and it's just maddening. It's like that's what a con man does. But he ragdolled her. What Democrats, Mr. President? She asked him. And he ignored her, and he kept going. And she said one more time, what Democrats, Mr. And I'm sitting at home going, don't let him off on this. Let's make him in. And she let him off. And she did that all night long. She would stop him in the moment when he would say something silly. He would say something that his 75-year-old base believes to be true, but everybody else knows isn't true. And she would correct him on that. And he would just ignore her and just keep going. It was amazing. It was just, and, you know, it's fuck CNN. You know, they put her in an unwinnable situation. That is not something that she can't do that. She's Look, with all due respect, maybe at some point after some more seasoning in her career, she'd be better at it. I know for a fact he wouldn't sit down like that with Rachel Maddow. Could you imagine? Holy shit, you put that on pay-per-view? Could you imagine? Trump, oh my God, if Trump wants to make some money, because, he likes to make money. He wants to make some money, and Rachel Maddow can, donate hers to trans charities or whatever the hell it is. She would do it. Imagine that, a national conversation. Rachel, not Kaylin Collins. And I'm like, who else do they have at CNN that they could have? Certainly not Wolf Blitz. That guy sucks. That guy is everything that has been wrong with the media for the last 40 years. Wolf Blitzer, right there. That guy. Anderson Cooper might have been good, although it needs to be somebody who can get confrontational. I don't know, but it wasn't Kaylin Collins. Maybe Aaron Burnett. No, I don't think it would be Aaron Burnett either. Breonna Keeler. That's it. It would have been Breonna Keeler, but Breonna Keeler's like out popping out babies. So Breonna Keeler would have been good. She'd have been good. Don Lemon would have sucked. Don Lemon would have fought back, but he would have fought back stupid because Don Lemon's not a wit. Donald Trump is a wit. That's why when he fights back, it's funny. He's going for laughs. Don Lemon, I don't imagine Don Lemon has good, quick comebacks. Just like, oh God, you're embarrassing yourself. The other thing that he did, he mentioned that, and some Dem presidents were trying to get rid of Roe, which is, just another micro lie. But he was also talking about, the witch hunt and all that. He was talking about how everybody is coming up to him telling him that this is a witch hunt and you're being persecuted. And he said, even some Democrats are coming up to me and they're saying, sir, I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. They're out of control. And she said, what Democrats? What Democrats are coming up to you? And he just kept talking. He just moved on to another subject, and she never chased him down. She just allowed him to ignore. She was terrible. Oh, my God. All right, Kaylin Collins, CNN's new star, debuts in the largest spotlight that CNN has had since bombs over Baghdad 40 years ago. And she shits the bed and gets ragdolled by Orange Grandpa. It was crazy good TV. What else is trending here? Oh, wait, should I move in? CNN should have used Chris Wallace for it. Chris Wallace would have been good. I don't know that. I think John Berman might have been good. But because they went with a woman, I can't think of her name, but she is the black attorney who has been filling in for Don Lemon in the 9 o'clock spot. What's her name? I don't know her name. She's terrific. She is smart. She has the career. She was a career prosecutor. She has that prosecutorial sort of tone when she's interviewing people where you don't know where she's going, but she might lead you to say something you don't want to say. She is so good. What's her name? Come on. Who's that girl? She's really pretty. She was the girl that Alex Trebek, before Alex Trebek died, they asked him who he would like to see replace him as host of Jeopardy. And it was that chick. He's like, that chick, she's sharp. Anyway, her, yes. I'd like to have seen her if we got to go with a CNN woman. But now they gave it to Kaylin Collins. And they gave it to Kaylin Collins because although CNN, this is the other thing that came out before although CNN, made a big deal of there were no concessions made and all of these questions are, basically they were trying to say that, we're not going to softball this. Well, they lied about concessions made. And I would say that they lied about concessions made. And they would argue that, no, that's not a concession. That was a negotiation. What they did was they allowed the audience to be Trump voters, all of them. It wasn't a mix of audience. Those were specific Trump voters and Trump supporters in the audience, which, sounds like a condition, but they said no, that wasn't. And there was one other thing. There was one other thing that was revealed that I'm like, oh, it was Caitlin Collins. It was Caitlin Collins themselves. They requested Caitlin Collins. Now, Again, maybe they wouldn't have done it if Laura Coates, thank you, JBM. Laura, maybe they wouldn't have done it if CNN was like, we're going to make Trump sit down with Laura Coates for an hour and a half. Maybe that wouldn't have worked. But yeah, so there were what I believe are concessions made, even though they said, we've made no concessions. I believe there's concessions. They would probably argue that they were just part of the negotiations and getting the deal done. But there are no, those questions were all vetted. You know, those questions that people asked. Mr. President, thank you for being here. I just wanted to ask you, bump stocks, blah, blah. You know, they were all vetted. CNN knew those questions were coming. Tell me about concessions. Just stop pretending that you're something that you're not. You are a cash register. You gin people up so that you can sell Lexuses during commercial breaks. That's all you do. Jamie Foxx is trending. Jamie Foxx is trending today for sad news. Well, we don't know. See, this is the strange thing about Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx has been in the hospital now for almost a month. In the hospital. They're not letting him go home. And we don't know what he's in there for. He's in there for what they're saying is a medical condition. His family, all his family says is, please pray for Jamie, which seems, you know, the dude's having gallbladder surgery. It doesn't seem like a month ago the family would need to go pray for Jamie and keep the condition secret. Now, there's any number of reasons why they might keep this. He's a very private guy. Jamie Foxx is a private. You know, here's an interesting thing about Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is so private. Like, he's very public. He does everything. He's everywhere. He's ubiquitous in the entertainment form. But as far as his private and his personal life, people don't know dick about Jamie Foxx. For instance, did you guys know that Jamie Foxx and Katie Holmes were an item for 7 years after Tom Cruise? Like, Surrey Cruise considers Jamie Foxx like a stepdad. It was all kept private. He's a very private guy. So, when he's rushed to the hospital and all they say is medical condition, you know, you're like, well, that's in step with Jamie Foxx. He's always been public, or his private life has always been his private life. But now it's been a month, man. And a couple weeks back, we heard from Kevin Hart, who saw him in the hospital, who is also very cagey about the Jamie Foxx situation. Well, you know, Jamie's going through it, but, you know, we have faith in the good Lord that he's going to pull through. And, you know, we just need all of you, you know, keeping those good vibes coming, and please pray for Jamie. Kevin Hart saying that publicly then made everybody go, fuck, it's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks of this, and it's not getting better. We're still praying for him. He's not giving away anything. He's not saying anything. As a matter of fact, Kevin Hart said something to the effect of, I don't think the family would be upset if I asked all of you to pray for Jamie Foxx. All right, so that was 2 weeks ago. And then still nothing. So comes yesterday, a very alarming report that friends and family of Jamie Foxx have now moved into the preparing for the worst phase. And we don't know what this is about. Now, are we being manipulated by a media that understands that, ooh, we love our gossip? Maybe. I don't know. Or, I don't know. I mean, see, that's the thing. We have to be, you know, stay frosty when you're reading these stories. I mean, I honestly, the media whipped me up into thinking that there was absolutely no way Jeremy Renner was ever going to survive that or even, you know, walk again. And Jeremy Renner, although a huge battle he's got in front of him, Jeremy Renner looks like he's on the road to recovery. He looks great. A lot of pain, a lot of that, but, you know, certainly way better than I was led to believe. Remember Jay Leno had his, remember there was an explosion at the car that Jay Leno was working on, and Jay Leno was burned over 90% of his body. And then like a day later, he's walking around, how you doing? With like a bandage on his face. So, you know, when it comes to celebrities, you have to be a little bit skeptical because we're easily ginned up about our favorite celebrities. Jamie Foxx's friends and family are not sharing his medical diagnosis. Here's why. And then it goes on to talk about what's going on. There's been no information released other than his family initially asking for privacy, and a post last week Blah, blah, blah from Kevin Hart. The desire for privacy is in keeping with how the Ray star has always lived. I'm trying to find the most recent thing, why he's trending. Oh, yeah, so this isn't good news either. And we talked about this, I think, yesterday. So he hosts a game show with his daughter, which is really nice and so totally Jamie Foxx because he's a super A-list guy and he shouldn't be anywhere near hosting a game show, but because his daughter's on it, he hosts it. That's awesome. He's been replaced on that game show, so he's not hosting the game show anymore. And the movie that he was filming in Atlanta has closed up shop. They're like, okay, this movie's done. So that means they know that Jamie Foxx ain't coming back in 3 weeks. They know that he ain't coming back in a month, which is all very troubling things concerning this mysterious Jamie Foxx situation. Hold on, let me see if I can find what set everybody ablaze recently about his. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, there's just all of these stories that suddenly started leaking yesterday. Jamie Foxx's inner circle and family are preparing for a worst case scenario for the actor. Let's see what they're saying that is. I love Jamie Foxx. You know, I had a troubling relationship. I thought that I didn't like him, and then suddenly I'm like, man, I just really like this guy. There was a video that was circulating about a year ago or so that captured Jamie Foxx out in the wild, behaving, you know, like, what if I ran into Jamie Foxx at the supermarket? Like, he wasn't performing or anything. He was just being a dude out in the wild. And he was so awesome. He was so cool. Well, here's the situation. He had shown up to some birthday party that was happening on the Sunset Strip at some private club. There's paparazzis and cameras and everything. He pulls up. The valet guy is getting into his car. He's about to move the car, but there's a bit of a line, and that's good because of what's about to happen. Jamie Foxx walks out. He walks up to the line. He walks to the front where the dude is holding the clipboard, and he says, hey, man, I'm here for the party. And the guy says, he looks down at it, and he's like, Jamie, I don't see your name on the list. This is a doorman. This is a doorman making $15 an hour, maybe $20 an hour. I don't know. It's a doorman. This is his job, right? His job is to make sure that nobody whose name is on the list, if your name ain't on the list, you don't get in the door. So Jamie Foxx is like, really? I'm not on the list. Well, yeah. And then so there's a little bit, okay, all right. And then so you see, and these are people filming it on cell phones. So this is Jamie Foxx just not expecting this. The dude goes, hey, man, I'm sorry. Do you want me to go get somebody? I can have somebody come down and maybe we can get, like, so the door guy was trying to make this understood. The door guy's looking at Jamie Foxx going, Jamie Foxx should be on this list, but he's not, and I can't let him in, so let me get somebody else. And the way Jamie Foxx treated this doorman made me go, Jamie Foxx is a cool dude, man. Jamie Foxx was so cool. He handled it in the absolute best way that this doorman wanted, which was he told the doorman, he's like, hey, brother, you are just doing your job. I don't blame you. You are good. You are good. And he's walking away, and people are like, Jamie getting turned away. You know, everybody in the crowd is laughing. They're like, Jamie can't get in. And he's like, no, man, they got great security here. They got great security here. And he's like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I'll hire you. I'm going to hire you. You're good, brother. You're good. It was so nice. It didn't have to be. It could have been a major A-list star throwing a tantrum, right? What do you mean I'm not on the list? But it was, so that recently reinforced that I made the right decision years ago when I decided that I was going to stop disliking Jamie Foxx and I was going to start liking him. You know what it was? When I first moved here, I knew somebody who grew up with him, and that person said some shitty things about him, like, oh, he's kind of a dick. But then, as time passed, I realized that that person who had told me those things was a much bigger dick than the person that he was describing Jamie Foxx to be. So I was like, you know what? Maybe Jamie Foxx isn't a dick, because that guy turned out to be a dick who told me Jamie Foxx was a dick. My best thoughts, keep him there for Jamie Foxx. I don't know. I don't know if we're being ginned up. I don't know if he's just private, or I don't know if this is really, really serious. Vandersloot. Remember Vandersloot? You guys remember him? Johan Vandersloot. Remember he was the Aruban playboy? Well, Came from the connected Arubian family. His dad was like a lawyer who was like the Solicitor General of Aruba or something at some point. I don't know, whatever. Joran van der Sloot. This is the guy who we thought killed Natalie Holloway. Remember Natalie Holloway? The recent high school graduate from Alabama who went to Aruba on a we're gonna go and party kind of weekend. She's out there, she's dancing. She's got a giant fish bowl, you know, with a long comical straw. She's dancing. She's sucking on this giant fish bowl of blue liquid. And a handsome Aruban named Joran van der Sloot slides up next to her at the bar there at Carlos and Charlie's. And he bedazzles her. And they leave together as seen on video camera. And then she's never seen again. And she disappears. Joran van der Sloot was the one that we all knew killed her, but apparently he didn't kill her. Well, they never brought charges. Well, because there was never a body. There was never a body found. There was never a body. Fun fact, because Aruba is a small place and he became like sort of this persona non grata in Aruba, he had to move. So after the Natalie Holloway thing, Joran van der Sloot moved to like Thailand or something. And guess what he started doing down there? He got involved in the human sex trafficking trade. And there's a lot of people who think that he was already involved in the human sex trafficking trade, and that's why he chose to move to that part of the world when it became untenable for him to still, stay in Aruba. And that Natalie Holloway, as he had told a reporter once, and in, what he thought was an off-the-record conversation, he said that he had sold Natalie Holloway to some sex traffickers in Venezuela. Said that she was a blonde, beautiful American teen girl. They could get a whole lot of money for her down there with rich guys and whatever. So that was one story. So then he goes down there and he starts human trafficking. And then they close in him on human trafficking. So now he's on the run. And he ends up in Peru. And he's broke. Oh, he's got no money. Then his dad dies. That's what it is. His dad dies, so he goes back to Aruba. And then, his mom starts talking to the press about how her son is insane and that he needs to be committed to an asylum. So he goes on the run again. He ends up in Peru. He has no money in Peru, but he's handsome. So he goes to a casino and he targets a girl who just won a whole bunch of money, and he hits on her the way he hit on Natalie Holloway, and he takes her back to his hotel room now in Peru, and he murders her with a tennis racket. He beats her to death, leaving her dead corpse in his hotel room. Joran van der Sloot might have really done a good job getting rid of Natalie Holloway, but boy, was he sloppy. So obviously the dude's a murderer. Now, in between all of this stuff, he was desperate for money, so he began to the family. Imagine that. The guy that you think murdered your beautiful daughter is now suddenly reaching out. And he's reaching out with blackmail in mind. Joran van der Sloot is the kind of human being who can call the mother and father of the girl he murdered and say, I'll tell you where her body is if you pay me $250,000. Yep, that's what he did. That's what he did. And that's why he's in the news today. He is in the news today because he is being extradited from his jail cell in Peru, where he was convicted of murdering that girl 6 years ago. He murdered her with a tennis racket, beat her to death with a tennis racket in his hotel room. Never faced a true trial for Natalie Holloway. However, he is now being, I'll read you this story. Excuse me. Dateline Lima, Peru. Peru's government will allow the extradition to the United States of the prime suspect in the unsolved 2005 disappearance of American student Natalie Holloway. Aruba. Caribbean. I think Caribbean's class. The Dutch Caribbean island of Aruba, bringing her family hope there will finally be justice in the case. Dutch citizen, excuse me, hold on. Dutch citizen Joran van der Sloot will be sent to the U.S. Peru announced Wednesday, to face trial on extortion and wire fraud charges stemming from an accusation that he tried to extort the Holloway family after their daughter's disappearance. Holloway, who lived in suburban Birmingham, Alabama, was just 18 years old when she was last seen during a trip with classmates to Aruba. She vanished after a night with friends at a nightclub, leaving a mystery that sparked years of news coverage and countless true crime podcasts. Vandersloot was identified as a suspect and detained along with two Surinese brothers. Oh, yeah, those guys, the Patel brothers or whatever, those guys. Anyway, she's coming back. He tried to extort money. I just wanted to give you the full story of who this guy is, because there's absolutely no doubt that he murdered Natalie Holloway. They just can't prove it. Because then after he did that, then he was involved in human trafficking, sex slaving in Southeast Asia. Then he went to Peru and he just murdered a woman because she won money at a casino. Boy, I'm telling you. And he's coming back to the United States. So that's why you're going to hear Johan Vandersloot mentioned. God. Seriously, some people. And his mom's like, he's a psychotic. My son is a psycho. He has always been a psycho. I wanted to talk about it back when the trial was going on, but everybody's like, don't sell out your own son. But now the world needs to know my son, Johan Vandersloot, is a psycho, and he's been a psycho his whole life. That's his mom. That's his mom saying that. Jeez. Also trending today, Disney versus DeSantis. The whole Disney thing ain't really, the rubber is hitting the road with the DeSantis versus Disney thing. It ain't going well for DeSantis. Here's the problem. His numbers in state are tanking. People are realizing that, there's starting to be talk of all the jobs that are about to be lost because Disney is not going to be putting the investment into the state of Florida that it used to be because the state of Florida is being dicks. Why? Not because these new things that DeSantis has pushed through that has caused this consternation between himself and Disney. Not because these things. He did it because he wants to run for president. And Disney represents something different to people in Ohio, to people in Wisconsin. Disney represents all that they've heard about the liberal Hollywood elites and all this kind of stuff. That's what it represents to them. People in Florida who might otherwise believe in all the same things that those people do not feel the same way about Disney. As it turns out, the people of Florida are like, can we stop fucking with Disney? Disney's really important to the state of Florida. I say this all the time. Disney is some combination of Alabama and South Carolina without Disney. Florida is some combination of those two states without Disney. Disney is the reason that people en masse to Florida. Florida depends. What point is just in the last. Actually, I'll tell you this. So. Disney versus DeSantis is not going well for DeSantis. Although he did this because he knew it would make him a national presence, it is seeming to backfire on him because now he is being challenged by people within his own party in his own state, and he is losing in the state. He is the second most popular. He's getting his ass crushed by Trump in the state. Miami Herald or something ran a poll if Donald Trump ran for governor of the state of Florida against DeSantis, and it was like he would wipe the floor with him, which might be the thing, which I'm thinking might be the thing that Trump does. He'll just become the Meisterburger down there of Florida. But DeSantis' war on Disney has basically not returned the national praise that he had hoped, and it got the local, the Florida, hatred that he didn't care about. He didn't care about that. He knew he was going to piss the people off in his own state by going hard against Disney. He knew that, but he wasn't planning on running for governor again because he was planning on running for president. So in that moment, while governor of the state of Florida, he made a decision that would benefit his presidential aspirations more than it would the people who made him governor. That's some bad shit. And, it's really not working well for him because Disney is kicking his ass at every turn. Let's see here. Is this Bob Iger? Yeah, I think this is. Bob Iger was talking about the Disney and DeSantis situation, and he says Bob Iger is the CEO of Disney and widely considered the most powerful man in all of Hollywood. This is about one thing and one thing only, and that's retaliation against us for taking a position about pending legislation. Iger also noted of Disney's initial fumbling response to Florida's discriminating Don't Say Gay law. Iger said, and we believe that in us taking that position, we're merely exercising our right to free speech. The CEO went on to say, echoing language he had used before in his earlier battles with DeSantis. I mean, see, this whole war against Disney didn't begin because Disney did anything. They simply issued a press release saying that, as the major taxpayer in the state of Florida, they do not support this legislation. That's all they did. That's all they did. And that's all DeSantis needed to create a supervillain. And he went to war with him, a war that everybody said, you don't want to be governor of Florida going to war with Disney. What are you, fucking stupid? Do you want to go from being the governor of Florida to being the governor of Mississippi? Now, the truth is that Disney's not going to move. They've got way too much invested there. But they'll ride this out. And, if it costs them X, because Disney's all about accounting, if whatever they just went through with DeSantis is something that they don't want to go through again from a bean counting standpoint, then you'll see Disney get super involved in politics in Florida. And then you'll get handpicked Disney governors. It works. You poked the beast, man. You fucked with the most powerful entity in Florida. And you did it because you knew you were going to be leaving town, hoping to live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And that's not working out for you right now. It's looking like you got to stay there. DeSantis is fucked. Bo Jackson is trending. Bo Jackson, one of my favorite all-time favorite football players, baseball players, athletes, greatest athlete I've ever seen with my own eyes. Had the pleasure of seeing him play both football live in person and baseball live in person. Back when he was with my beloved Chicago White Sox. Saw him hit a home run. Saw Bo Jackson hit a home run. That was very exciting. If I'm being truthful, I've probably seen Bo Jackson play more when he was with Kansas City. But still greatest athlete of my lifetime. Bo Jackson has had hiccups for a year. Now, here's what you need to know about Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson is a dude, man. Bo Jackson. You know why Bo Jackson? You know, you're like, oh yeah, Bo Jackson. I forgot about him. Bo Jackson doesn't want to be famous. There on NFL Today going, well, the Cardinals really need to get their defensive line. You don't want to do that. But you know what Bo Jackson wants to do? Bo Jackson wants to sit in his backyard. He wants to shoot at trees with his bow and arrows. He is like an insane archer. He hunts everything. He's like crazy out. He's living in the south suburbs of Chicago. He's out there in Lockport, sitting in his beautiful backyard, probably filled with Lockport trees and all that. He's just shooting things with arrows. Bo Jackson also opened up how cool would this be? This is in the south suburbs. This is in Lockport as well. He's got the Bo Jackson Youth Training Center. And this isn't just like, you go to a UFC training center in Ohio, Dana White ain't going to be there. No, this is the one Bo Jackson Youth Training Center. It's right there in Lockport. Every time I drive by it, I'm like, that is so fucking cool. That is where, if you want your kid to be coached by Bo Jackson, you can go and Bo will do it. Bo Jackson is all over my hometown. See him all the time. My kid and I were at, my kid and I were a couple of years ago. It's gotta be, man, probably now. My kid and I, I don't know what it is. It's like a place where you take kids and it's got all kinds of video games and, kind of like a Dave & Buster's, but it wasn't a Dave & Buster's. Cosmos, I think it's called Cosmos in Orland Park. So we're there, and I'm watching my kid play, and my kid's on the games that they play, and I'm standing behind him, and I'm like, yeah, you're doing good. And I look over to my side, and I notice there's a whole bunch of other dads suddenly gathering. I'm like, what's going on here? These dads don't even know each other. So I back up, and I'm like, what's going on? And dude goes, this is Bo Jackson. And it's like at the game, just sitting there at the game. There were these two little kids, and they were playing this game, and there was this dude who looked like grandpa, maybe. I don't know. And he's like, God, and he's like, with these kids, he's getting them into the game. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Bo Jackson. And everybody just left him alone. Everybody's just like, yeah. But every dad in the place, every dad of a certain age was like, Bo's here. That's Bo. And I tried to explain to my kid, I said, you see that guy right there? Do you see that guy right there? And he looks over at this 50-something-year-old black man, gray, looks like... Now, when I said to him, that's the greatest athlete who has ever walked the earth, my kid looked at him and was like, him? And I'm like, now, Bo still looks good. Bo, you wouldn't fuck with Bo. If you're in a traffic thing, and the dude gets out of the car and it's Bo Jackson today, you're still going, no, fuck this. This is nuts. This dude is like a brick shit house. He's just badass. So my kid didn't know who he was, and that crushed me. So on the ride home, I pulled up on my phone some Bo Jackson highlights on YouTube. And as we drove home, I watched my 8-year-old sports enthusiast boy for the first time become aware of Bo Jackson, the guy who was playing a game right next to him. And I'll never forget my kid saying this. He goes, after about a couple of minutes of watching this, he turns to me and he goes, he played baseball too? I go, yeah. And he goes, and he was really good at baseball too. I go, yeah, he was really good at everything. I love Bo Jackson. My second favorite athlete of all time. Walter Payton is number 1. Bo Jackson is number 2. But this whole story leaked because Bo is so private. He didn't want anybody to know that he's been suffering for hiccups for an entire year, since July 15th of last year. But his very good friend, Hall of Famer, the Big Hurt, they went to college together. They played football and baseball together. Auburn University was unveiling a statue to Frank Thomas there at their baseball stadium. And Bo Jackson was recruited to be the guy to unveil it. And, to say the speech about my buddy Frank, Big Hurt, and he pulls the whole thing down. Well, Bo Jackson didn't show up. And Frank Thomas was like, what is he blowing me off for? Why Bo and I are like brothers. Why is he blowing? So he calls Bo, and Bo tells him that he's had hiccups for like 9 months. Frank didn't believe him. Frank was like, if you didn't want to do it, man, just tell me you don't want to do it, but don't tell me that you got the hiccups, And he's like, no, man, seriously, this is a real hiccup problem. So anyway, Frank Thomas, I guess, went on a podcast recently, and he said that Bo Jackson has had hiccups for a year. And so that forced the media to descend upon Bo Jackson. And poor Bo Jackson, he's sitting there now, and he's talking about it, and he's like, yep, I've had hiccups since July 15th of last year. Boy, man, Bo Jackson don't do anything halfway, huh? I mean, come on. NFL legend Bo Jackson has had the hiccups for a year, and he is finally seeking medical treatment. Although his athletic career was cut short due to